Greetings, lore seekers, and welcome to another episode of the Lost Archives, the Star Wars Legends lore series. So today I'm continuing with super weapons, and I'm going to be talking about the Dark Saber. Now, some of you will know what this is from the Mandalorian Rebel TV series. So the Dark Saber that you're thinking of is the very first lightsaber created by the first Mandalorian Jedi, a Jedi simply known as Vizsla. Well, it wasn't the only thing in the Star Wars universe with this name. In fact, it predates the lore of that with the creation of a weapon that was essentially a scaled-down version of the Death Star, which only contained the super laser firing chamber and power systems, and a few bits of living quarters tacked onto the end of it. It was called the Dark Saber because it very much looked like the hilt of a Jedi's lightsaber flying through space. Now, this was not a super weapon created by the Empire. This was in fact a weapon created far after the destruction of the Empire and during a period that could essentially be called the latter years towards the end of the Imperial Civil War. No, this weapon was built by the Hutts. After a bit of trickery, they managed to steal the plans for the Death Star 1 from the computer cores on Coruscant, right under the nose of the New Republic. And so, the designer of the Death Star was contracted by this particular Hutt in order to build the weapon. Bevel, realising that, well, he's not going to need all the recreational and shopping facilities of any of the Death Stars or all the major defences, he just wants the super laser. So, he scaled back the design, thus making the building process and structural needs of it much less severe. Unfortunately, you're dealing with a Hutt, and they're going to cut costs wherever they can. Firstly, not substandard equipment was provided to build the station, and the workforce, despite being of a hive-minded race, was easily prone to distractions, so technical glitches and mistakes were prone. The Dark Saber was completed, but Bevel didn't have any hope in it and didn't think it would work. And then unfortunately, the New Republic found out about the project, and so sent a saboteur force to render the station adrift in space. Unfortunately, the Hutt's private security forces and henchmen dealt with those rebels, and executing the final one in front of the Hutt and Bevel, just as the New Republic task force arrived. Now, the Hutt was essentially like, oh yes, my station's operational, into the asteroid field in the Hoth system, because that's where they were building it, Hoth. Funny that, isn't it? And took it into the asteroid field, where Bevel kind of was like, this ain't gonna work, and while everyone was distracted, quietly slipped off the ship and was eventually captured by the New Republic. Now, while traversing the asteroid field, eventually the Dark Saber came across two gigantic asteroids that were looking to crush the Dark Saber between themselves. The Hutt was like, this is fully operational. Not having the same gusto of Palpatine, he commanded fire at will, it spluttered, it went bang, and then nothing happened. And unfortunately, the Dark Saber began, as it ended, being a pile of trash, poorly made, and then finally being crushed between two asteroids. All with its Hutt and its henchmen aboard it. Whoops. Bevel went on to become a prisoner of the New Republic and was one of the only few executions that the Republic actually sanctioned. Many of them did happen in that era, but he was kept around for a long while to provide technical assistance to the New Republic to pay for his war crimes. But more on that later. Anyway, this has been a short video on the Dark Saber. Now, I do like to think that perhaps the Dark Saber in the Mandalorian lore that came later was perhaps a nod towards the Dark Saber weapon from the Expanded Universe. And the way you could link it into canon or in your own headcanon is that, that looks like a lightsaber, Bevel thought when he was redesigning the station. No, it's the Dark Saber, a insult to the Jedi. At least that's how the Mandalorians used it at one point, especially those of House Vizsla. And so maybe that could be a nice little way that you can tie the two bits of lore together. Now, spoiler alert, if any of you have seen The Mandalorian, you know what turns up in there eventually. Anyway guys, this has been my video on the Dark Saber, a super weapon not built by the Empire. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, perhaps get a discussion going, maybe leave me a like, maybe share it around. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. Anyway, lore seekers, take care, Have a good day, and may the lore keepers ever be in your favour.